Hello from Portland. We've been talking on many of the videos in the group about women in the media, particularly about Disney princesses, which I always find fascinating. And I actually got into a discussion online with a good friend of mine about women in The Walking Dead. As I've mentioned, I really like The Walking Dead. It's not the best written show in the world, but I think the concept is really well executed, and this season in particular, they've done a lot better work with moving the plot and the characters. But anyone who's watched The Walking Dead knows that the way women are portrayed on the show creates some issues. And the point my friend was making in this discussion online, she's also a big fan of the show, but she said the reason the men have to be in charge of everything on The Walking Dead is that they wouldn't be able to drive the plot if women were in charge, because women wouldn't engage in the kind of ridiculous posturing and blustering that the men do. And I think that's sort of true. If you look at the current dynamics of the show, it's basically highly aggressive men who are engaged in totally unnecessary violence against a backdrop where the world has basically been destroyed, where civilization has collapsed. They're doing nothing to address the main threat. They're just fighting each other. And it's almost a parody of what we think of as the worst aspects of hyper-masculine culture. It's also true The Walking Dead tends to portray women in fairly passive roles. Especially the first season, you see women doing a lot of laundry and cooking and domestic chores while the menfolk are out brandishing weapons and protecting the group. I think this is probably a deliberate artistic choice. I think they are taking the position on the show that a breakdown of civilization would probably lead to a reassertion of more patriarchal social norms, and that may well be true. That's not something I would want to happen, and I don't like the idea, but I can imagine in the aftermath of such a traumatic event having some strong, aggressive men sort of taking charge and the other characters going along with it. But I think Walking Dead, if looked at in the right way, sort of serves as the same kind of cautionary tale as The Handmaid's Tale, which was a terrible movie but is an excellent book by Margaret Atwood that basically is a futuristic novel, not too far in the future, about the takeover of America by a traditionalist right-wing organization that subjugates women. And it's a really good novel, and it paints a really chilling picture of the kinds of oppression that are not that far removed in our history and are not that hard to imagine. And I think The Walking Dead paints kind of a picture of the sort of regression that might be possible in a large-scale disaster. It would be nice, though, even against that backdrop, if they could have presented a few more options of women who were not simply accepting these domestic roles in the group. Andrea, who's probably my least favorite character, is the closest they came in the first two seasons to having a woman who wasn't content to wash dishes and wanted to learn to use weapons and wanted to fight the zombies. Even Andrea is a character whose decisions are hopelessly compromised by her attraction to really aggressive and really crazy men. She was attracted to Shane, and she's attracted to the governor, and despite all that she knows about the governor, and she's just making terrible, terrible decisions that seem to be rooted in this desire to be protected or to be with a strong man. So not exactly a feminist icon in Andrea. Obviously, Michonne is one of the best characters to ever come out of the Walking Dead stories, and she's been a great character on the show. And she is certainly a powerful, strong, aggressive woman. And Michonne interests me because she is obviously lethally effective at killing zombies. She's extremely valuable as a warrior, and yet she's also highly principled and very compassionate in her way. She's kind of a loner, but she's very aware of the people around her, and she presents a kind of strength that isn't necessarily rooted in mindless aggression. And I like what they've done with that character. So she's a great character.